Yo, Pierre, you want to come out here?
All right, guys, welcome back to the Opportunity Knocks podcast. I'm here with one of our most distinguished and accomplished guests to date, Mr. Shandon Cole. He's one of the partners of Insight here. He's been kind enough to come up to Canada from down in the States. And just to give you a little bit of background as to who this man is, he runs a multitude of businesses that operate not only at the state level, but across state lines and across international borders. So a lot going on for this guy. He's been kind enough to carve out some time for us right now to impart some of that wisdom. So welcome to the show, Shannon.
Oh, thanks, man. Hey, first official podcast. I feel like Joe Rogan with this microphone. So yeah, super cool. Thanks for having me on here.
Yes, sir. Well, we don't have too much time now, but if we can go back to kind of the early days when you were first going out there knocking doors.
Sure.
Tell us about what that was like, what the maybe industry was like, and maybe your first summer.
Yeah, a long time ago, before most people who will be listening to this podcast were born, I think. I was just attending college, university, what you Canadians call it down in the States. And oldest of 7 kids. My dad was a police officer. My mom tried to stay home. Long story short, not a lot of financial help with my schooling. So something I had to kind of take care of myself. And in doing so, which is out there always looking to work, make some money. I put myself through first year of college, doing some manual labor jobs, some demolition with a construction company, some yard, like lawn mowing type stuff. Raised hardworking, like I said, oldest of 7 kids, kind of making my way the whole time. My dad worked 3 jobs trying to support, so was not scared of work and used to working. But had this opportunity come up where a buddy said, "Hey, there's some free pizza if you want to come listen to this about this opportunity, knocking some doors and selling bug spray." Mm-hmm. And so really went more so, I think, at the time for the free pizza, mm-hmm. and heard the pitch and was just super intrigued. What really got to me was not only what they said you could earn, because there's a lot of that going out there with, this is probably too good to be true. But I really liked what the presenter mentioned, that, hey, this is the type of job that you get paid what you're worth. Like you really get paid according to your effort, not what we have already predetermined that your worth is. And to that point, those other jobs that I had worked were hourly jobs. So, I showed up, I worked, and I just got paid a certain amount per hour. And because of a strict dad and being the oldest of a lot of brothers and sisters, I was a hard worker. I just didn't know anything else. And so I'd go to these hourly jobs, and it used to really bother me because I'd work my guts out, man. I'd mow faster. I'd demo harder. I just felt like I was really there giving it a good effort. And I was surrounded by a bunch of these individuals that, no disrespect, but I just didn't feel they were working as hard.
They weren't hustling.
Yeah,
right?
when the boss wasn't looking, they were just standing around, and that just wasn't in my character. But at the end of the day, we were getting paid the same. And so, I remember a guy named Dave, I shouldn't maybe say his last, well, who cares? He just said, "Dude, why do you knock it off? Why are you working so hard?" Like, dude,
making us look bad.
Yeah, kind of. And it wasn't I was trying to suck up or be, it was just in my character. Mm-hmm. but it did feel weird that, man, I've hauled a lot more demo stuff today. I've mowed a lot more lawn. Mm-hmm. I've worked harder. My effort's been better. My results have been better. But at the end of the day, I'm still making the exact same as these other people around me. And so anyway, when the presenter mentioned that kind of resonated with me a little bit, thinking, okay, well, if that's really true, and I can make more if I work harder or try harder or give more effort, mm-hmm. That I think was kind of I'll give this a shot. What do I have to lose? I can always go back and mow lawns and demo houses. So,
took a bet on it, right? Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I got tricked into it, I guess you'd say. Went out there the first summer and it was horrible, like it is for all of us that are knocking doors.
Yeah.
But
It's tough work.
but man, the opportunity, it really was an eye-opening thing. I needed to pay for school. I had no reasons to be out there, and just decided if I was going to go make this sacrifice, I was going to give it my all, so that if it didn't work out, I could never go back and say, well, I should have, could have, would have.
Yeah.
And worked my guts out. And, long story short, finished as one of the top rookies that year. And it really just opened my eyes. I went back and did it again for a second year, for just to help pay for school, and a third year. And it was my intention. I was studying finance at the time, and my intention just to kind of put myself through school, able to get everything paid for, completely out of debt, buy a little condo and start making some investments. And it was just a really amazing opportunity and blessing in my life at that time.
Yes, sir. And so a lot of reps that come in, they view this as kind of a stepping stone onto other sales careers, which is awesome. We love to train people and give them the crash course in sales. But for you, you decided to settle in for the long haul, right? And was there a specific point in time where you made a conscious decision to do that, or was it just the momentum just kept going?
Yeah, really good question. A couple things happened, I think, that aligned to make this kind of something I decided to stay in. I agree. I think this is more of a stepping stone, and should be. I don't think this industry as a career is for everybody. And I would say that the vast majority go on to something else with an amazing skill set that I don't think they've even realized they're gaining at the time that they're doing this job, as it relates to confidence, work ethic, self-accountability, communication skills, the ability to effectively communicate with people. Mm-hmm. And for me, like I said, I was studying finance. I tended to be like kind of a financial planner, and just the stars kind of aligned. I had a paper that I was in one of my classes needed to do, studying a business, and because I had been selling pest control, I just decided to might as well do pest control. And so not only the sales aspect, but I started looking at the other side of the business with regard to the fulfillment and the servicing side of it. Was intrigued by the fact of the recurring revenue, of the market penetration, just all those things you kind of look for as you're doing a business paper or a thesis on a different business. And just thought, look, I know how to sell this stuff. The fulfillment side seems a little bit intriguing. I'm young. I don't have a lot of commitments, and I don't have a lot to lose with regard to if I gave this a shot and it didn't work out. Yeah. And so I had a friend at the time that I had knocked doors with for a number of years that was kind of in the same boat, and just made the decision to go give it a shot, thinking that if it wasn't quite what I had hoped, that I would still be able to utilize those skill sets, those things I learned, to go do something else. Because in the end, I will tell you, business is business. There are different categories of it, but to be a successful business owner, or even to be a successful employee, if that's what you want to call it, it really comes down to just, again, self-accountability, confidence, ability to set a specific goal or result that you want to achieve, and then work hard to achieve that. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to kind of take that left turn and go do a pest control company, not just the sales side, but the fulfillment side. Mm-hmm. And started a little company in Las Vegas, and just kind of the rest is history. So I don't think there was this moment where it's like I knew this is what I wanted to do. It just kind of fell in place. Again, most people that are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, pest control is not going to be what their future is. They're not utilizing this little skill set of knocking doors and selling bug spray so that they can do this for the rest of their lives. Yeah. I just hope that they understand early, because I didn't at the time, and I wish I would have earlier, just how beneficial, and how much of the experience that they're taking from this little summer sales job, that if they'll take it serious, they'll learn those core principles that I've mentioned a few times now of self-accountability, self-reliance, the ability to learn to communicate with people effectively, not just verbally, but non-verbally and metaverbally, the ability to be honest with oneself as it relates to their effort, to not look for excuses and blame as to why things aren't going well, but in the end, be accountable. And those are just such amazing skill sets to learn at this age and take into whatever career you're going to take. As I've looked back and friends I've done this with that have been successful, again, the vast majority of them have nothing to do with pest control any longer, but unequivocally those that excelled at this job are excelling in their current careers, whatever that is. It was lawyers, doctors, dentists, realtors, accountants, engineers. Well, how does selling pest control relate to being an engineer? Because I think a really good engineer is a hard worker. They're self-accountable. They set and achieve goals for themselves. They're honest with the results. They don't make excuses. They don't look for the outside or blame others for the lack of their success. It's just skill sets that I think translate to anything you're going to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've even in 2 or 3 years, a couple of my buddies have gone through this program, and just seeing them come out the other end of it and go on to other sales jobs or different industries, they're already kind of accelerating. And I can only imagine, 20, 30 years down the road, what that might look like.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that part of this job is just checking in with people 5-6 years down the road. And without question, sincerely, I've never had one not be able to relate some of the lessons and skill sets that they've learned from this door knocking job into the success they're having, whatever career they're doing. Yeah. Even, I've got a couple female reps that aren't working. They stay at home and they're moms with kids, but they I've talked with them, and it just last year and she's like, it's awesome. Like I'm such a better communicator with my kids. Like I use the sales cycle on my kids. Like, hey, here's the need of why we're going to eat our vegetables. I create the need. I show them how we meet the need. I resolve the concerns. If you know how to communicate with people, if you know how to get your point across, how to listen, how to mirror, these are lifelong communication skill sets, especially. And I think we're losing those in the day of technology and texting and emailing. I think even more so, you're going to distinguish yourself if you can learn to talk to people face to face and have verbal conversations. Yeah.
You enumerated a couple of values or maybe traits that people learn when they do a difficult job like this. And yesterday we talked a little bit about delayed gratification. And you mentioned that as being one of the core, I guess, keys to success. Do you want to talk about kind of what that meant to you and maybe some times in your career where that might have paid off?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I appreciate that question. I think delayed gratification presents itself, manifests itself in this job in a couple of ways. Number one, if anyone has a desire to do anything entrepreneurial, I think that is one skill or trait that they have to learn or have to be okay with.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely, unless your entrepreneurial job is winning the lottery, that it's going to come overnight, right? Like that's not how it works. And that's obvious, meaning you're going to grind, and you're going to have to be okay with seeing and the work now, knowing that the results are going to come later. And I think that is what's really hard to an entrepreneur. It's a lot easier just to put in an 8-hour day and get paid at the end of every week or the end of every 2 weeks, knowing exactly what you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And kind of seeing that consistent, more guaranteed result. But I think from an entrepreneur standpoint, I think delayed gratification is imperative, but I don't think that just relates to someone that wants to be an entrepreneur. I would think that one of the cornerstones of people that are either just happy or wealthy. If you study wealth and in general, one of the traits I think that most wealthy people have, again, unless you're going to win the lottery or you're given money from mom and dad, wealthy people learn delayed gratification. They learn the ability to be okay to wait for the result. If I'm earning, I'm not going to spend it all right now. I'm going to reinvest. I'm going to be okay to wait and let this work for me so I can get a bigger benefit for it later. And in business, absolutely. If that was one of the harder things when I went from being a sales rep that was able to, blessed to be able to sell a lot of accounts during a summer, make a lot of money, to going to the fulfillment side. Now I became the guy paying the sales reps, right? And it was years and years where I was barely surviving, writing some big fat checks to some teenage kids, and that was weird for me. It's like, man, I'm the boss, I'm the owner, I'm making nothing. These guys are
last, right?
But that's what I mean. And I don't think it just relates to business, but I think wealth in general. I think delayed gratification is a skill set and a trait that most happy people need. It relates to wealth. It relates to fitness. A lot of people, they just say, I'm gonna try to get healthy. I'm gonna try to get in better shape, and they'll hit it hard for a couple weeks and don't see immediate results, and so they get frustrated and give up because they don't have that ability just to be patient and grind and be okay that the results are going to come later. I want it now, and we live in a world that honestly kind of focuses on that, right? It's hey, you can have it now, and if it doesn't come now, it doesn't feel right, and I think that's sad. I think we're losing a little bit of what makes us strong, and as a society, as individuals. But I love that you brought that up. Delayed gratification has the ability, whether it be in business, absolutely essential in an entrepreneur type role, but I think that carries over into so many aspects of life if you can teach yourself to do that, as it relates to wealth, as it relates to health. If you're willing to grind and sacrifice in the short term, knowing that you're not going to see some of the results or benefits from some of those results to the long term. You know? I remember someone said to me when I was first, hey, you should take some of that money you made and put it in an IRA. I don't know if they even have those up in Canada, but down there, there's like these retirement accounts. And once you put it in there, dude, you cannot touch it till you're like 63 years old. Like, no way I'm putting this in a freaking IRA, dude, 63 years old. But now I'm old and looking back, you put a few $1,000 in it at that age, and with the power of compounding interest and time, it's $1 million and time. Anyway, I'm such a believer in delayed gratification. I'll talk about this for the whole freaking podcast, but learn that trait. It's a self-mastery, and it can help you so much to be able to say, look, I'm okay to work now, even though I might not see the results right now, because I believe and see the results that it's going to pay off in the future.
Yeah, I think the idea of compound interest with a retirement account is an interesting analogy, because it manifests itself in, health and even just learning about business and life in general, in that, sometimes we're going to have these down periods in the market and you can't panic and run away from your investment. And so maybe if we go back in time a little bit, and you kind of showed us the path you took from school into being a salesperson, then running your own business. What were some of the, I guess, low points that maybe taught you some of these things? Or maybe if you had a mentor that, passed on some of their hard-earned lessons to you, were there some moments or some key mentors that really shaped the foundation and taught you about things like delayed gratification and that? Or was it just figuring it out by, feeling around in the dark?
Man, that's a really good question. I'm trying to figure out how to say this without seeming disrespectful, because I don't want to. My dad was definitely a mentor in the sense man, he worked his guts out. Like I said, he was a truck driver for until my teenage years, and became a police officer. But I don't know about here in Canada and in the States, neither of those pay very well, especially when you got 7 kids and you're trying to have your wife stay home so she can raise. He was very, very insistent that when possible that my mom was home with us as much as she could be, which made him work at least 2. He would work throughout the week as a police officer throughout the day. Then at night he would go and be a dispatcher, and then on the weekends he was a security guard at a retirement at an old folks home. And I love him and respect him and view him as I hold him in the utmost respect. And so I hesitate saying, I don't know how, I hope this comes across. He was an absolute example and mentor of someone that put himself last and worked his guts out for the benefit of others, and was willing to do whatever it took. And I'm so grateful that I saw those traits, and I hope that I can manifest and have those same type of traits. But I didn't want that. Like I saw that, and that's one of the main reasons that it was appealing to me to kind of take a different path. My dad was a worker, man. But in my opinion, he was worth way more than what his paycheck said he was worth. And so, in no way being disrespectful, I kind of learned from the example something I didn't want. Although the traits and the personality and the person that he was, I wanted to emulate 100%.
Yeah.
And that was directional for me. I want to be the type of worker and the type of person who's got that type of drive and willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But man, I'd like to do it in a way where I could, maybe have a little more time and with my family and freedom and be paid or compensated what I feel my worth is, not what someone else has predetermined my worth to be by an hourly wage. And so he was I'm so grateful for him and for that example of hard work. Because I think if you can take that hard work mentality, that I'm not going to quit, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But then maybe find something that will reward that type of work and that effort and that sacrifice more than just I'm going to pay you a preset wage. Yeah. And so I hope in no way that came across as disrespectful, that, my dad was a bad example. He was a phenomenal example to me on work ethic and self-sacrifice. But it was also helpful to see that he did it one way, and man, if there's another way to do this, so I kind of took a different approach there. I would say parents were just awesome people. My mom passed away in an accident a few years ago, but she was just another selfless, good human person that just, without question, my parents' mentors. As far as business goes, again, I hate to go negative, but I think one of the one person that really changed my trajectory is when I decided. So I was working for a few years knocking doors for another company. In fact, the first company that ever knocked doors doing anything. It was the first one that really started doing this. And every door knocking company this day, if you kind of trace back its lineage and history, at least if it's pest control or solar security, any of those, it kind of came out of this one company.
That's pretty cool.
Right? Yeah. A whole other podcast. We'll go through the history of door to door. It is pretty fascinating. Anyway, not to use names, but I remember when I made that determination that friend and I that I mentioned earlier in the podcast had decided to go try this, to do the fulfillment. Hey, I'm not just going to, knock doors, but I'm going to go see if I can make a business out of this.
Yeah.
And I worked my guts out for that guy for a few years. I played by the book. I followed the rules. I sold good accounts for him. Anyway, I went in pretty excited to let him know that I thought I was ready to move on my own and kind of do my own thing. And I remember having that conversation and having him tell me that it wasn't going to work. He's like, dude, you're crazy. Wow. You're much better. And that really was, I don't know, that was a kind of a turning point, because I started to get this self-doubt of what maybe. And I remember that feeling of walking out, and I still decided to kind of go the path I wanted to go. It didn't talk me out of it, but that never left me, and I thought to myself, I don't ever want to do that. I don't ever want to create a working environment to where the people I work with or work around feel like I don't believe in them, and that if I'll give my honest opinion, and but some of the things he shared, I could tell were more they were more for him than they were for me. And here's this guy that was cheering me on for years when it benefited him, but then when it wasn't, but it could intentionally benefit him.
Selfish betrayal.
Yeah, almost, and maybe there was some, but the community, it was something that I just wanted to never replicate. And I would hope that anyone that has worked with me directly has never felt that I didn't believe in them 100%. And I'll share an honest opinion. And if someone says, hey, I think I should do this, what do you think? And I don't think they should do that. I'll share that, but hopefully in a way that is more positive and uplifted and constructive, not destructive. Yeah. Because those two things early on were very informative. Now, some positive, those are two kind of negative examples. My dad's an awesome guy, but kind of, I want to take a different route than that was. I would say one of my positive mentors, I don't know if you guys have had Tom on this podcast, but
not yet, but
okay, we got to get him. He's Canadian, man. Like he deserves to be, but he's just, he's been a partner for a number of years, and just one of the most solid, positive, hardworking people that you'll ever meet. And it's just awesome you find those type of people. They're workers, man. You know, he worked on a potato farm growing up. He worked on a farm here in Canada, then went down to school in Utah and worked on a potato farm. And I just loved hearing his stories about just his work ethic and his how he sees work, and every day is just a blessing and an opportunity. And he's been a great example and just a really good influence in my life from a positive perspective.
Yes, sir. Well, my timer just went off.
No, dude, we're keep going. I can talk forever.
Yeah. I wish we could have you here for almost a couple hours, right? But I guess just to sum it up, you know, a lot of us look for maybe the positive answer, the silver bullet. It's like when a sales rep comes up and says, you know, what's the one thing I can do, that like the secret sauce? And maybe it's easier to figure out what we don't want to do and just take little pieces out, just chip away at it until we're left with the statue at the core of the rock, right? But yeah, our camera's about to die, and you got to hit the road. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the podcast here. And
Yeah, well, wish I could have talked a little bit more of the sales stuff. I get going on these old history things like an old man, and got a little bit derailed. But I love it, you guys. Last just 2 seconds here. Take advantage of the opportunity sincerely. Again, don't view this as a little summer job that you're never going to need or use in your life. So really look at it for what it can be, and it can be a life-changing opportunity to learn a lot about yourself and develop some lifelong skills and habits that will truly benefit you, not just in work, but in relationships as a husband or wife, or a father or a mother, a mentor, a teacher. It really, really can, as cheesy as that sounds, if you'll buckle down and just hold yourself accountable.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll be back on next week with another episode of the Opportunity Knocks podcast. But thank you so much, Shandon.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Have a great rest of your day, guys.
Okay, thanks.